Nate Stivender, partner at MP&F, talks to host Doug Simon on PR's Top, Pros Top.
We're talking about agency transition. So, Knight, let's start out. What's one of the most important things when an agency is making a generational transition?
I think that the most important lesson that we have learned in our transition is that there are going to be a lot of things that you want to change, but you need to remember that you bought the company for a reason. It was a good, strong company in the first place. So should be a long laundry list of things that you don't need to change.
That's really great input on that. Are there strategies that can help during a transition? Because I'm sure it can also bring uncertainty.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that we have experienced is many of our employees, especially our senior staff, have been at MP&F for the majority, if not all, of their careers. The founding partners built a really great culture here, so much that, a lot of folks just, stayed here 10, 15, 20 plus years. They started their careers here as interns and they're still here as vice presidents and beyond. And so with an ownership change, with brand new owners, many of whom haven't been with them from the beginnings, that leaves the door open for people to, if their headspace is not in the right place, that they can sometimes assume the worst. It's not just who moved my cheese, but who moved my whole house. And
Mhm.
and that isn't the case. Like I said, we bought the company because it had good bones, and we might do a little redecorating, but we're not going to tear it down and build a tall and skinny or anything like that.
That's really smart. So MP&F used to be solely PR focused. Now you've expanded to integrated communications. How is that being received by your client basis? And obviously, that's a change that many agencies are trying to make to be able to expand their offerings.
We began expanding into advertising, marketing, data and analytics, and paid media, you know, maybe 15 years ago, and then really aggressively about 8 years ago. And that was driven by our clients. They enjoyed and appreciated our PR service line, of course, but maybe even beyond that, they appreciated our account management and our commitment to their growing their business and being with them through good and bad times, whether it was a storm they were going through, or during the Great Recession, they appreciated our commitment to weathering that with them as well. So when it came time for many of our clients to look at all of the agencies they were working with, whether it was advertising or media buying or marketing, I think many of them saw us as, what if you guys did that too? Wouldn't that make things easier for us? You guys seem to have a grasp not only on what's coming and what we might need next, looking at us like a business partner, but also like someone who could handle it. If we didn't do it right that minute, we could do it if given enough time to figure it out and hire the right people. And that is how we grew. It really is the through the direction of many of our biggest clients.
And now that you have these multiple sectors that handle different aspects of the business, how do you manage to find the right leaders for each of them?
I mean, that was mission critical, and we're still working on that as we shape out many of those sectors. We had a lot of these service lines, like I said, for a decade or more. But in the last 8 years or so, we started to build up the leadership of those service lines by pulling in people from more established agencies who really had leaned hard into those service lines. So, for example, we now have in creative an executive creative director with 20 years of experience working at advertising agencies and in-house as the ECD in charge of creative. With him, we've got to creative directors who have worked at ad agencies in Nashville, Atlanta, Charlotte, and beyond. So, folks who really know their craft and not only know it well, but can help advise and direct others on our team to become experts and very, well sought at what they do.
So you've also been applying the same approach to some of your other areas like data analytics and digital strategy. Can we talk about that a bit?
I was a journalist for the first half of my career. And in being a journalist, I started as a reporter and editor, and I'm 47 years old and was a journalist in a time when a lot of newspaper websites were a function of the marketing department of news organizations. And I was involved in the transition between newspaper websites being in that marketing role and then moving into the news role. And I was one of the first digital directors from the news side who got to experience that change. And that took me down a path of understanding the data and analytics behind a digital news operation, and knowing how to monetize that came next. How do website audiences translate to page views, and how does that translate to being able to charge advertisers more and that sort of thing. So that is really where my background comes from and how that translates to the agency side of our business. Now, when I started at MP&F, I was the director of marketing strategy and data analytics. Those have since become two different departments, and we have hired people who know way more than I do about both of those things. And one of them came from a digital agency in DC, and one of them came from an analytics background. She's someone with an MBA in finance and data science. So she understands that in ways that I will never, but that's how we've grown there.
Yeah. Is there a balance that needs to be struck between expanding services and keeping your core business going? Because obviously, if you're investing in a new area, that's going to cost money and talent, et cetera, maybe before you even have the project work in that space. So how do you navigate that?
We have a partner meeting every Monday, and we had one this morning, and we were asking ourselves that very question this morning. And a lot of it comes down to, a balance between what business do we have right now, what prospects do we feel really confident about converting to clients, and do we go ahead and hire based on the needs of those likely converts plus existing accounts that are ripe for growth. That's taking a calculated risk, and we're open to doing that. Do we wait until the business is squared away before we make those hires? I think sometimes that's actually a bigger risk to go ahead and wait, because if you can't service the accounts that you've got with the type of talent that you need in order to do it well, then you're at risk of losing the business or not growing it to the capacity that you can grow it.
In summarizing, and I know from you things have been going really well since you and your team have taken those leadership roles, any other advice of pitfalls to avoid? Maybe others who are in a position of thinking that generational change might be coming fairly soon.
Our founding partners had a succession plan, and they had that in place. They had begun to execute that, and we're talking it through with those of us who ended up buying the company from them. But not you can't plan for every contingency. And there were some things that, none of us could have predicted. One of the partners that I had looked so forward to being her partner today, close in age to me, ended up passing away suddenly. And that was a tragedy no one could have predicted. So, there are things like that you cannot anticipate. And, we were fortunate enough to have insurance policies in place that protected the business from that, but that doesn't protect your heart from from that kind of a
Right.
thing happening. And I guess the advice on that is to be willing to roll with the punches because they're gonna come. You know, they come in your family. They come and just being a human being, and they will certainly come in running a business.
I'm sorry for your personal loss. Any final comments you'd like to add?
I think anybody who runs a business, owns a business, starts a business, anybody who has an entrepreneurial mindset is impatient to some degree and wants to do everything right away, or can want that. They want to fix every problem they see immediately. And I think one big piece of advice I've gotten in my career, and one of my business partners has framed this up with a quote from the Big Lebowski. She has said, guys, nothing is tier. We don't have to, we have a great book of business. We've got a great team. We don't have to upset the apple cart every time we think something needs to be fixed. It's a great business we've got. And I think that piece of advice is it's something that has gotten me through a bad day here and there. And I would anybody who owns a company, I would challenge you to remember that on your hardest days.
That is great advice. And the good news is you've got a lot of good apples that you're working with. Thanks so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.